You know, my dear, at 80 years old, I've realized that life is a tricky business. It fools you into thinking you live forever when you're young. And then, when you finally slow down enough to look back, you wonder how in the world all that time got away from you. And let me tell you something. By the time you hit my age, regrets come knocking like old debt collectors. Some you can pay off with a laugh. Some you can settle with forgiveness, but others, well, they stick to your soul like gum on the bottom of a shoe. One of my deepest regrets is this: I should have kept more secrets. That may sound strange to you. After all, people say honesty is the best policy, right? But no one tells you that too much honesty, especially after 65, can ruin your peace faster than termites in a wooden house. My mistake was thinking my family needed to know everything about my money, my health, my past, my dreams, even my lonely nights. And because of that, I lost a lot of peace I could have kept for myself. That's why tonight, sitting here with you, sipping this warm tea, I want to share with you 6 secrets you should always guard closely once you pass 65. Because guarding your peace, my dear, is the greatest gift you can give yourself in your later years. The first secret is money. Now, you know I've always been a hard-working man. I spent decades paying bills, raising children, saving a little here, investing a little there. Nothing extraordinary, no yachts, no Swiss bank accounts, just steady, honest work that allowed me to pay off my home and keep food on the table. When I hit 67, I thought I'd give myself a pat on the back and share with my family that I was finally debt-free. I imagined it would be a moment of celebration, maybe even gratitude. Oh, how naive I was. That birthday party, I remember it like it was yesterday. The house was alive with laughter, the smell of roast chicken filled the air, and I was sitting there at the head of the table like a king who'd conquered a mountain. I cleared my throat and proudly announced, "Folks, I've done it. The house is mine. The mortgage is paid." For a split second, there was silence. I thought it was admiration. But then my daughter's fork froze midair, my son leaned forward with that calculating look in his eyes, and my grandson, who spends more on sneakers than I spent on my first car, asked if I had ever considered investing in crypto. Crypto! I thought it was a toothpaste brand when I first heard about it. From that day on, I stopped being just dad or grandpa. I became a vault with legs. My daughter suddenly wanted me to co-sign a loan for her dream house. My son had a brilliant idea for a food truck business and insisted I was the perfect silent partner. And my sweet granddaughter? She shyly asked if I could sponsor her yoga retreat in Bali. Bali! I told her the only retreat I was funding was a retreat into my armchair with a good book. I regret that moment deeply. I should have smiled, kept my little victory to myself, and told them nothing more than, "I'm getting by just fine." When your family knows too much about your finances, they can't help but look at you differently. Some mean well, of course, but even love can get clouded when money enters the picture. If I had kept that secret, I would have saved myself years of uncomfortable conversations, guilt trips, and subtle hints about helping out. My advice to you: guard your financial details like a dragon guards his gold. Don't lie, but don't reveal the full map of your treasure either. Now, let's talk about health, the second secret. Ah, my body, my old and stubborn companion. By the time you're past 65, everything starts acting up. Your knees creak like rusty hinges, your back stiffens if you so much as sneeze, And your digestion, well, let's just say it has its own mind of its own. And like a fool, I used to share every little ache and pain with my family. I thought they'd appreciate knowing. I thought it would bring us closer. Instead, it brought nothing but chaos. I once told my daughter that my back was hurting more than usual. I figured she'd say, "Take it easy, Dad." Instead, she showed up at my house the next week with boxes from Amazon, foam rollers, heating pads, strange elastic bands, and some contraption that looked like a medieval torture rack. She insisted I use them all. My son, upon hearing about my back, started sending me articles about experimental surgeries in Germany. And my grandson, he signed me up for goat yoga. Goat yoga! Imagine me, 78 years old, lying on a mat while a goat prances across my spine. I told him, "Son, if a goat ever gets on my back, it'll be because I fell into the wrong pen at the petting zoo."
The third secret, my dear, is the past. The past. It comes back to you like old songs on a dusty radio, faint but irresistible. Sometimes, in a moment of sentiment, you want to share it. You want your family to know you weren't always this wrinkled old man. You want them to see the fire you once had, the mistakes you made, the adventures you chased. But here's my regret. I once told them too much. It was one evening, after dinner, when I shared a story about a woman I once loved before their mother. Just an innocent tale of youthful foolishness, of nearly running off to Mexico with her on a whim. My daughter's face froze. My son smirked like he'd just uncovered buried treasure. And my wife, well, she didn't say a word. But the cold silence that followed was worse than any argument. For 3 nights, the couch became my closest companion. And my kids, they never let me live it down. My grandfather still jokes about Grandpa almost being a runaway Romeo. I regret that so much, because the past, once shared, becomes family legend. They never see you the same again. You're no longer the dependable rock. You're a man with cracks, and they'll poke at those cracks forever. I've learned that some stories are best kept to yourself, not out of shame, but out of wisdom, because the peace of your present is worth more than the drama of your past. Now let me pause here, because I want to talk directly to you, my dear friend who's listening. If any of this sounds familiar, if you felt the sting of being too open, then take it from this old man. Peace after 65 is not about being an open book. It's about being a selective storyteller. And since you're listening to me pour my heart out, I'll ask you kindly, if you've gotten this far, show a little love. Press that like button. Drop me a comment about which secret struck you hardest, and subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it tells me I'm not just an old man rambling into the void. It tells me my regrets are helping someone else avoid the same traps. All right, let's keep going. The fourth secret you must guard is your dreams. You see, people think that once you hit 65, you stop dreaming. That's nonsense. I still dream. I still want to see Italy, paint a picture, learn to play the harmonica, even ride in a hot air balloon. But here's the regret. I used to share these dreams with my family. I thought they'd cheer me on. Instead, they tried to manage them. The moment I said I wanted to see Italy, my daughter gasped and said, "Dad, it's too dangerous for you to travel." My son suggested I join a senior tour group, which, knowing him, was just code for babysitting. When I said I wanted to paint, they laughed and said, "At your age, isn't that a waste of time?" And just like that, my dreams became their projects. They wrapped them in caution, tied them with restrictions, and sucked the joy right out of them. I regret sharing. These days when I dream, I keep it to myself. I let the thought simmer in my heart, private and sacred. Maybe I'll pursue it, maybe I won't, but it's mine. Some dreams, my dear, are like delicate butterflies. If you catch them and hand them to someone else, they'll crush them without meaning to. Keep your dreams close. Let them keep you warm without letting others blow them out. Now the fifth secret, and this one is heavy: loneliness. After 65, loneliness creeps in like fog. Friends start disappearing one by one, either moving away or leaving this world entirely. Children get caught up in their own lives. Grandchildren grow up older and too busy for visits. Suddenly, your home is quieter than you ever imagined. And me, being the overly honest man I was, I used to tell my children how lonely I felt. I thought it would bring us closer. Instead, it brought guilt and discomfort. My daughter cried when I told her. My son got defensive, saying, "We visit when we can, Dad." And my grandchildren started avoiding the topic altogether, probably feeling helpless. All I achieved was making them feel burdened by something they couldn't fix. I regret laying that on them, because loneliness is a battle we elders must face ourselves. We can soften it with hobbies, community, faith, and friends, but dumping it on our children only weighs them down. I learned the hard way. Loneliness is a secret best fought quietly. And finally, the sixth secret is end-of-life wishes. Yes, it's uncomfortable to think about, but trust me, once you hit my age, those thoughts come whether you want them or not. One day, I made the mistake of telling my children exactly how I wanted my funeral to go. I thought it would make things easier for them. Instead, it started a war. My daughter wanted a full church service with hymns. My son thought a simple cremation was enough. And my grandson, bless his ridiculous heart, suggested a Viking funeral with flaming arrows. I told him the only flaming arrow I'd ever accept was Cupid's, and that was many decades ago. The arguments went on for weeks. Something that should have been my peaceful wish turned into their battleground. I regret ever opening my mouth. If you want your final wishes honored, write them down with your lawyer, tuck them away safely, and let them be found when the time comes. Don't give your family ammunition to argue while you're still alive to hear it. So there you have it, my dear. 6 secrets I regret not keeping: money, health, the past, dreams, loneliness, and end-of-life wishes. Each one I shared cost me peace. If I had kept them close, I would have slept easier, breathed lighter, and laughed louder. So learn from me. Keep these secrets. Guard your peace like treasure, because in the twilight of life, peace is the only thing that truly matters.
You know, my dear, after sharing those 6 secrets, you'd think I'd be done talking. But the truth is, when you're 80, words spill out of you like water from a cracked jug. And once I start remembering, I can't stop. It's like my heart has been holding all these regrets, all these stories, waiting for someone like you to sit across from me and really listen. So thank you for lending me your ears and your patience. At 60, you're young enough to still change course, but old enough to understand the weight of what I'm telling you. Now, about those 6 secrets. Let me tell you, life after 65 teaches you lessons in ways you never expected. You think you know your family, you think you know yourself, but time has a way of peeling back the layers. The problem is, sometimes what you reveal only complicates things. If I could go back, I'd treat my secrets like sacred prayers, spoken quietly, carefully, only when absolutely necessary. Take the first one, money. I can't tell you how many nights I lay awake regretting the day I told my children about paying off the house. At first, I thought it was harmless. I thought it would make them proud of me. Instead, it opened the floodgates. Suddenly, every financial decision I'd ever made became their business. Dad, why are you keeping your savings in the bank? Don't you know inflation is eating it away? Dad, you should sell this house, downsize, invest the difference. Invest the difference? Do they think I want to spend my golden years staring at a stock market chart, praying it doesn't dip before breakfast? I worked my whole life for the security of these four walls. I regret ever inviting their opinions into that part of my life. There was one evening, not long ago, when my son came over with brochures for luxury retirement communities. He waved them around like a magician, pulling rabbits out of a hat. Dad, look at the amenities, pools, gyms, social clubs. You'd never feel bored again. I looked him straight in the eye and said, Son, I don't want a pool, I want my peace. And if I need a gym, I'll just try to bend down and tie my shoes. That's workout enough. He laughed, but he didn't understand. That's the thing. When they know too much about your money, they stop seeing you as content and start seeing you as a project. I regret letting them in that far. And then there's health. Oh, my stubborn body. I wish I had kept my mouth shut about half the things I told them, because once your family thinks you're fragile, they never let it go. I can't even sneeze without my daughter asking, Dad, are you okay? Should I call the doctor? A sneeze. When did sneezing become a medical emergency? One winter, I caught a mild cold. I mentioned it in passing, and within hours, my daughter was at my door with soup, blankets, vitamins, and that worried look in her eyes. Sweet, yes, but also suffocating. I felt less like her father and more like her patient. I regret giving them reasons to fuss. It robbed me of my dignity. You see, sometimes silence is not about hiding, it's about preserving the balance of respect. And let me tell you another story about health that still makes me chuckle. Once, at 74, I slipped in the bathroom and landed hard on my backside. Nothing broke, thank heavens, but I had a nasty bruise. Foolishly, I told my son. Do you know what he did? He went online and ordered safety rails, non-slip mats, even a shower chair. A shower chair! I told him, Son, I still have enough balance left to wash myself standing up. The day I can't, I'll let you know. Until then, keep your chairs in your own bathroom. But the chair arrived anyway, and now it sits there like a silent insult, mocking me every time I take a shower. I regret ever mentioning that fall, because ever since he treats me like glass. Now, the past. Oh, my dear, the past is a slippery thing. At 80, I've lived long enough to have my share of stories, some beautiful, some foolish, some better left buried. But I opened my mouth too often and it cost me. I remember one Christmas, when the wine was flowing and the memories were too, I told my grandchildren about the time I drove cross-country with nothing but a map and a guitar. Their eyes lit up. They were fascinated. But then I mentioned that I once picked up a hitchhiker who turned out to be a runaway. My granddaughter gasped, my daughter scolded me for being reckless, and my son laughed but shook his head like I was an irresponsible fool. What had been a cherished memory for me became a cautionary tale for them. They saw danger where I had seen adventure. I regret sharing that story, because now, whenever they think of me, they see not just a wise old man, but a man who made bad choices. The truth is, my dear, sometimes your past is like old photographs, precious to you, but faded and misunderstood by others. Show them too often, and people start judging the colors instead of cherishing the moment. That's why I say guard your past. Share only the stories that uplift. The rest, let them be your private treasure. And what about dreams? I still dream, even now. Just because my hair is white and my hands are wrinkled doesn't mean my heart has stopped longing. But oh, how I regret sharing those longings. Once I mentioned to my daughter that I'd love to visit Paris, just once, to see the Eiffel Tower with my own eyes. She sighed, shook her head, and said, "Dad, international travel is too hard for you now. Be realistic. Be realistic." If I wanted realism, I'd look in the mirror every morning and count my liver spots. Dreams aren't about realism. They're about keeping the fire alive inside you. Another time, I told my son I wanted to learn how to paint. He laughed and said, "At your age, what for?" I regret every word of those conversations, because the moment you hand your dreams over to others, they either crush them or clip their wings. These days, I keep my dreams close to my chest. I let them live quietly inside me, fueling me in ways my children could never understand. Now, loneliness. This one is hard to admit. But I've spent many nights staring at the ceiling, the silence pressing down like a heavy blanket. Friends gone, neighbors moved, my dear wife sleeping quietly beside me, but in her own world of dreams. The loneliness creeps in, no matter how full the day was. And once, in a moment of weakness, I confessed this to my daughter. I said, "Sometimes, sweetheart, I feel so lonely I don't know what to do with myself." Tears filled her eyes. She hugged me tightly. And then she started calling every day, panicked if I didn't answer. My son began visiting more often, but with a guilty look in his eyes, as though my loneliness was his fault. I regret sharing that secret, because it didn't ease my loneliness, it only spread it to them. They couldn't fix it, they only felt burdened by it. Loneliness is a cruel companion, but it is mine to wrestle with, not theirs. I wish I had kept that to myself. And finally, those end-of-life wishes. That's a topic I wish I had never brought up. I thought I was being responsible, telling my children exactly what I wanted. Instead, it sparked arguments that lasted weeks. My daughter wanted hymns, my son wanted simplicity, my grandson wanted fire and spectacle, and me, I wanted peace. I regret ever telling them, because now, even while I'm alive, they bicker about how to honor me when I'm gone. If I had kept my mouth shut, my wishes written quietly in a lawyer's drawer, I'd have spared us all the conflict. So yes, my dear, those are the regrets. But let me tell you something important. Regrets are not chains, they're lessons. At 80, I can look back and see where I went wrong, and I can share that wisdom with you. So maybe, just maybe, you won't repeat my mistakes. Because life after 65 is not about how much you reveal, but how much peace you protect. Let me give you one more example, just so you understand how deep this goes. A few years back, I told my children about an old box I keep in the attic. Inside are letters, photographs, little mementos from my youth. Nothing scandalous, just pieces of my history. I thought they'd be curious, maybe even touched. Instead, they argued about who would inherit it. My daughter claimed she should have it, since she's the responsible one. My son said he should have it because he's the eldest. I sat there watching them fight over a box of memories, and my heart sank. I regret ever mentioning it. That box was supposed to be mine, my private treasure trove. And now, even when I look at it, I feel their fingerprints all over it. That's the danger of sharing too much. Once the words are out, you can't take them back. Once the secret is revealed,
It no longer belongs to you. It belongs to everyone who heard it. And they will twist it, use it, argue over it until your peace is gone. So, what's the lesson, my dear? Guard your secrets. Keep them safe. Share your love, your laughter, your wisdom, but not everything. Because peace in these twilight years is the greatest treasure you'll ever have. And if you're wise enough to keep these 6 secrets to yourself, you'll live with more serenity than I ever did. Now, before I close my mouth and let you finish your tea, let me say this. If you've stayed with me through these long ramblings, if you've listened to the regrets of an old man and found even a spark of truth in them, then I thank you, truly. And if you want to keep walking this journey with me, these stories, these lessons, these laughs at my expense, then do me a kindness. Like this little talk, leave me a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so we can keep sharing these fireside conversations. I may be 80, but I still have plenty left to say, and I'd rather not say it to an empty room. So, my dear, promise me this. Keep your peace. Hold your secrets. And when you're my age, you'll sit in your chair, smile at your family, and know in your heart that some treasures are meant to stay locked away. I regret not learning that sooner, but maybe, just maybe, you won't have to.